The jobs report, nobody is reading correctly what the March numbers really mean for interest rates, your wallet, and what comes next by Felix Pin, ex investment banker. The jobs report just dropped, and on the surface, it looks like great news. But here's the problem, the surface is lying to you. Today, I want to walk you through what the March labor report actually says, why it puts the Federal Reserve in an almost impossible position, and what it means for interest rates for the rest of 2026. Because the headline number and the real story are two very different things. The headline, 178,000 jobs added March, saw 178,000 net jobs added to the US economy. That is by any measure a strong number, better than any single month in 2025, better than anything we have seen so far in 2026. If you only read the headline, you would think the economy is humming along just fine. But before you relax, there is something you need to know. The number they quietly changed. Cast your mind back 1 month. The February jobs report told us the labor market lost 92,000 jobs. That was already concerning, but the government has now revised that figure. February did not lose 92,000 jobs, it lost 133,000. That is a 44% difference from the initial figure, and it matters enormously because the same government that quietly revised February upward by 41,000 losses is now telling you March added 178,000 jobs. Maintain a healthy level of skepticism. These numbers get revised, often significantly, and usually in one direction. What is actually inside the March number? Let us look beneath the surface, because the composition of those 178,000 jobs tells a more complicated story. Approximately 70,000 of those jobs, nearly 40% of the total, came from healthcare workers returning after a strike. That is a one time event. It will not repeat next month. Beyond that, construction added 26,000 jobs. Transportation and warehousing added 21,000. But federal government employment fell by 18,000, a trend that is likely to continue. Strip out the strike return effect, and March's real underlying job growth looks considerably more modest. The unemployment rate, good news with a catch. The unemployment rate fell to 4.3% in March, down from 4.4% in February and 4.6% back in November. On its own, that is genuinely positive. A falling unemployment rate signals labor market resilience. But here is the catch. The Federal Reserve has said repeatedly that the unemployment rate is their single most important data point. When unemployment rises, they have a reason to cut interest rates. When it falls, that justification disappears. Right now, unemployment is falling, which means the Fed has almost no political cover to cut rates, even if other parts of the economy are screaming for relief. Wage growth is falling and your purchasing power is shrinking. Here is the number that barely made the news but should have led every financial broadcast. Wage growth in March fell to 3.5%, down from 3.8% in February. That alone would be manageable. But combine it with this, the money supply is currently growing at over 10% annually. What does that mean in plain English? It means prices in the economy are expanding more than 3 times faster than your paycheck. Every month that passes, your salary buys a little less. Your purchasing power is being quietly eroded, not through a single dramatic event, but through the slow, steady math of money supply outpacing wages. The silent disruption, AI is now the number one cause of job cuts. According to the Challenger Job Cuts report, US employers announced 60,620 layoffs in March alone. That is a 25% jump from February. But the reason behind those cuts is the story that changes everything. The leading cause of job losses in March was not economic conditions, it was not store closures, it was not restructuring, it was artificial intelligence. AI accounted for 15,341 job cuts in March, which is 25% of the total. To understand how rapidly this is accelerating, consider the trajectory. 2023, AI caused 1% of job cuts 2024, 2% 2025, 5% March 2026 alone, 25%. That is not a gradual shift. That is a structural disruption gathering speed, and it is only just beginning. The bigger picture, a labor market that is slowing zoom out, and the trend is clear. In 2022, adding 200,000 to 400,000 jobs per month was routine. Some months hit 800,000. The economy was roaring back from the pandemic. By 2023 and 2024, That number had settled into a range of 100,000 to 200,000, slower but still consistent. Now, in 2025 and 2026, the picture has become genuinely uncertain. Some months show gains, some show losses. The swings are wild. Job openings have been declining steadily since their peak in 2022. The labor market is not collapsing, but it is weakening beneath a headline that looks strong. Interest rates. The door is shut. Let us go to the numbers that matter most for your mortgage, your savings, and your investments. According to the CME FedWatch tool, the probability of a rate cut at the April 29th Federal Reserve meeting is now effectively zero, not low, zero. The probability of rates staying unchanged stands at 99.5%. 1 month ago, there was an 11% chance of a cut. That chance has completely evaporated. Looking further ahead, the picture does not improve. June meeting, 97.5% chance of no change. July meeting, 97.5% chance of no change. September meeting, 92.2% chance of no change. The market is pricing in no rate cuts for the foreseeable future. The reason is a two-part trap. Energy prices are rising, which pushes inflation higher, and when inflation is rising, cutting rates would make it worse. At the same time, the labor market looks strong enough that the Fed cannot justify cutting rates to support it. The Federal Reserve is stuck, and it knows it. The political wild card here is where it gets interesting. President Trump has nominated Kevin Warsh to serve as the next Federal Reserve Chair. His confirmation hearings begin April 16th before the Senate Banking Committee. If confirmed, he could be in the chair as early as mid May. President Trump has been vocal about wanting lower interest rates, but wanting lower rates and being able to deliver them are two very different things when inflation is climbing and the labor market appears stable. If the new Fed chair bows to political pressure and cuts rates prematurely, inflation could surge. If he holds firm and keeps rates high, it will almost certainly create open conflict between the Federal Reserve and the White House. Either way, uncertainty is high and markets do not like uncertainty. The takeaway. Here is the honest summary of where we stand. The headline looks good: 178,000 jobs, falling unemployment, a resilient economy. But beneath the surface, nearly 40% of March's job growth was a one time event. The previous month's losses were quietly revised sharply higher. Wages are growing at less than a third the pace of money supply. AI driven job cuts are accelerating faster than almost anyone predicted. And rate cuts, the relief valve that businesses and homeowners have been waiting for, are off the table for the rest of the year. The labor market is not in free fall, but it is not as strong as the headline suggests. And with rising energy prices feeding inflation while the Fed's hands remain tied, the conditions for a significant economic slowdown are quietly assembling. The question is not whether this changes, it is when. Felix Pin is a former investment banker and the founder of Phoenix Financial. He hosts free live investor training sessions and runs a research community of over 30,000 members at phoenixfriends.org.